talking to like like an old helmet. It is what it is. Um, he's disagreeing with this helmet at times. It's in. He's like, no, like I'm not doing that. Like that's not like I have plans essentially. So he lands on Ilum, and Rey is waiting there to meet him. There's a connection that they don't quite get, but there's a reason he went alone, because he feels maybe this is like a kindred spirit, because they are wielding the dark side, and they don't know really what's going on. So he goes on his own. He hasn't noticed really. He knows they're doing something on Ilum. He doesn't know what it is. Doesn't really care, honestly. He's there to see this Force user. So Rey and Kylo square up. They start battling, and it's not as one-sided as you would think. You have essentially a Sith Lord against like a Jedi apprentice, but they're very evenly matched. He does some damage to her. She does some damage to him, but it's very much almost a bit of a stalemate. Eventually, Finn shows up. He's gotten wind of what her and Poe have been doing, and he's like, really, like, this is not what we were supposed to be doing, like, so he went there to try to stop her. So it becomes a 2-on-1 fight. Rey and Finn against Kylo Ren. In this fight, Kylo's still doing his thing. He's switching styles as he's going. He's a superb fighter. But it is 2 against 1, and one of which who he's not really trying to kill. Finn he couldn't care about. He'd take him out in a second without a second thought. But he's trying to keep Rey alive because he thinks maybe I can get like an apprentice out of this sort of thing. And he lets his guard down. They strike. Their lightsabers cut through his mask. It falls to the ground. And they are sort of shocked by what they see, because what's underneath the mask is, I'd say, 90% mechanical. There's just a bit of human there. It's a human we recognize. It's Anakin Skywalker. They don't know who it is. We know who it is. So you're probably thinking, what the hell? Like, Anakin is dead. He's Darth Vader. He died. We'll get into that later. Essentially, this has messed with, his suit's life support system and everything. Because, like Vader, Kylo has... He's wearing this suit for a reason. It's not just to look emo and scary. So he retreats. In the meantime, Finn and Rey are they're injured. Nothing like, like serious. Maybe one of them lost like an arm or something. It is what it is. It's Star Wars. Someone's going to lose like a hand or something. But they're not none the worse for wear. They head back to the rebellion. Poe and his like troops or whatever, they are working on getting Starkiller Base up and running. It's been a lot of work. It's been going on for a long time. But it's almost ready, sort of thing. So Finn and Rey go back to the rebellion. And essentially, Rey is like, don't tell anybody. This is like Poe's thing. He's a general. Let him do his thing. Finn's like, no, we gotta tell Leia and everything. So he tells Leia, and she's very disturbed by what she's hearing. Her and Han Solo and Chewie decide, you know what? We have to find Luke. We have to figure out what's going on here. We have to stop this from going too far. They have a basic idea. They know that Yoda went to Dagobah or whatever. There are Force-sensitive worlds out there. They are aware of which ones they are, so they're gonna go looking for Luke. Hopefully sooner rather than later. So, Finn, Han Solo, Chewbacca, Leia, their kids, 3PO, the whole gang is back together and they go off to find Luke. In the meantime, Rey has gone back to Poe on which is now almost a completed Starkiller base. We cut then to the first place where the rebellion jumped to. This giant, energy thing, this anomaly. And we see it's growing. It's growing very fast. It's launching this lightning type energy everywhere. And a ship pulls into this area. The ship is Kylo Ren's ship. His machinery is still damaged, but he had to go and tell his master of what's happening. Darth Plagueis has learned many things over the centuries of life. One of which he learned about an ancient Sith Lord by the name of Nihilus, who learned how to consume life through the Force. And he has gone beyond that. He is this spatial anomaly. He's slowly devouring complete worlds, draining all life from the entire system. And Kylo Ren appears before him. Essentially, he makes himself a physical form again. And it comes to be learned that when Anakin Skywalker killed Emperor Palpatine and allowed Plagueis to reconstitute himself, he was kind of pissed. Because this being was something he had been working on, that he had created, and had been essentially stolen by Palpatine. He didn't like that. So he used his knowledge and his power to essentially resurrect Anakin Skywalker. There's only so much you can do, though. And he could bring back the mind, he could bring back, the Force power, whatever, but he couldn't bring back the whole body. So he brought back what he could, put the rest in a machine, and that was the birth of Kylo Ren. Plagueis is a lot more powerful now. So he fixes up Kylo Ren. not just machinery, complete physical rebirth. What you get now is essentially if Darth Vader had never been injured at peak power, that's now what you have with Kylo Ren. So, Plagueis, who is now this Force entity, essentially, essentially says to his student, you're like a master now. Go. I've gone beyond the Sith. Darth Plagueis is dead. He's something new now. So, almost like as a last, gift to his apprentice, he gives him a body worthy of him, and sends him back to his empire. Thinking, everything's good, but, Plagueis now has a plan. Like, he started eating planets. He started eating life. That hunger doesn't go away. Eventually, he's going to go beyond this star system. He's going to go to another one, and eventually consume everything. So, he thinks, he does a slight kindness for his apprentice. Give him few decades of the power that, he was supposed to have. And then he'll come along and just eat everybody. Yeah. And that's where we end the second movie. You can't get much darker than that. We start movie 3. We start with Han Solo and all of our main people finding Luke on a planet. They go in there, they tell him what's going on. He sensed something, but he couldn't get a full grasp on what is going on. So they tell him, Kylo Ren wiped out the Jedi Temple, and then essentially decimated our forces, and has taken control of Coruscant, and is rebuilding an empire. But Luke realizes, there's something more to this. He feels the existence of Plagueis. He doesn't know what it is exactly, but he knows it's powerful, and he knows he needs to discover the way to defeat this evil. He has no clue how to do it. So he's been going from Force-sensitive world to Force-sensitive world, trying to commune with fallen Jedi of the past and everything, and he doesn't know yet. He's got a few more places to check, but this time, the gang is going to go with him. In the meantime, Poe and Rey and his branch of their military have finished Starkiller Base. And their first choice is going to be, what are they going to do with it? This leads to an interesting situation where Poe is we've got all these moons in this like area like around Coruscant. We're gonna take out a bunch of these moons. There's no one on them. You know what? But it'll let our power be known, and essentially it'll scare off the First Order. Rey thinks about this for a while, then ignites her lightsaber and impales Poe Dameron, killing him dead right there. And she takes command. Says no. We're not pussyfooting around. We are going to fire this weapon at Coruscant. We are going to destroy the entirety, the entire central power structure of the First Order. We're going to wipe them all out in one shot. Some of the troops are not happy about this, but a lot of them, are like, yeah, that's what we need to do. We need to take these people out. There's no choice. So they start working towards that goal. In the meantime, Luke has felt a shift in Rey. He's like, this isn't good. We need to nip this in the bud right now. We have to stop this now before anything else can happen. So they give up on what they're looking for. They turn the ships around and they start heading back towards Ilum. It's getting close to the time when they're going to fire on Coruscant. Our gang arrives on Ilum, and you end up getting a lightsaber fight between Rey and Finn. At this point, Rey's lightsaber has changed color. It's not red yet, but where it was blue, it's now an orange. It's starting to go dark. They're fighting, and she manages to very critically injure Finn. I'm talking limbs gone, like, dude's essentially a stump. 'Tis just a flesh wound comes to mind. At which point, Luke steps in, ignites his green saber, blocks the thing, and essentially says, like, what are you doing? And he uses the Force and probes her mind and sees what is actually happening. She's been getting more and more drawn to the dark side since the events of the Armada being destroyed. And what it is Plagueis has essentially infected her. Infected her mind with a tendril of darkness, if you will. There's a connection there now. So Luke, using the Force, going into her mind and seeing this, has a bit of an epiphany. He realizes, okay, the enemy is over there. We don't have to worry about, First Order be damned. It doesn't matter what they're doing right now, because there's not going to be a galaxy left if we leave Plagueis to his own devices. This connection manages to essentially snap Rey out of it, and she comes back to her senses. She realizes what she's done, that she's killed Poe and heavily damaged Finn, and she feels really bad about this. you know, at the same time that this happens, Kylo Ren, who's making his way back to the Empire, the First Order, feels this happen. He feels this change, and it's almost like he picks up right away why this is happening, and he like realizes, yeah, I've been given a body back. I've been given, like the power I wanted and everything, but this has come at a price, and he realizes from his connection to Rey that there's more to this. At this point, he goes back and he starts talking to the helmet of Vader again. You're like, what the hell's going on here? But then you see what he's seeing. He's not seeing a helmet. He's seeing the Force ghost of Anakin Skywalker. Because despite being a recreation of Anakin Skywalker, he is not Anakin Skywalker. Anakin Skywalker still exists as a Force ghost. And he's been, all the time, all the times we've seen him throughout the series talking to this helmet, he's been talking to the actual Anakin. And Anakin's been saying to him, it's like, this isn't your path. This isn't the way we were, we weren't made to do something. We chose, like I chose to fall to the dark side. And, you can choose to abandon it. At the same time, he's also hearing Darth Vader, which is weird because, here's Anakin Skywalker, but the dark side of Anakin's power has essentially done the same thing that he did. So he's essentially a Force ghost of the dark side. So you essentially have like two personalities coming through one person. And they're switching back and forth. It's like he'll be talking as Anakin, and then all of a sudden he'll be talking as Vader, and his eyes will have changed, and he'll have, And essentially at this point, Kylo realizes, I've been played. Yeah, Plagueis has done good by me, but it was all in his own interests. And you know what? I'm going to take what I learned. I'm going to take this new power he gave me, and I'm going to turn it right back on him. So he starts making his way back to Ilum. He knows Rey's there. He knows, there's a connection there. She knows he's coming. She feels it. And she tells Luke, she's like, this Kylo Ren's coming. And, it's like, and he knows that he's the one behind the massacre at his temple. But he's putting that aside. He lands. He gets out. Luke goes to meet him. And is very surprised when he sees Anakin Skywalker walk down the ramp. He knows what Anakin looks like because he saw his Force ghost. And he's kind of taken aback. At the same time, Kylo, who has now essentially given up that name, is just calling himself Anakin. He gets it, and he says to him, "It's like, you know what? I don't know what I am. I'm not Anakin Skywalker. I'm not Kylo Ren. I'm not Darth Vader. But I'm not standing for what's going on." And essentially, what they decide they're going to do is How do you defeat something that eats worlds? You use the full power of the Force. Both sides. And essentially, Anakin Skywalker and Luke Skywalker decide they're going to channel the Force into Starkiller Base, through the Kyber crystals into the cannon, and they're going to direct it directly at Plagueis. How are they going to do that? You can't turn a planet. So essentially, Anakin comes up with a plan. He's going to draw Plagueis to him. He's going to essentially say there's this planet. Like, essentially give him a target too big to ignore. So he essentially puts a message out through the Force saying there's this, he knows Plagueis is going to hear this, but he's assuming that Plagueis is going to assume that he's telling, he was telling about like how, he found this like this possible, new protege. So essentially he's gonna talk to Rey psychically through the Force, but he's gonna do it in such a way that Plagueis is going to hear. And he's gonna be drawn in. And he is. They choose a location, Dead World, and essentially they draw him to this planet. This anomaly forms, starts raining lightning on the planet, but it stops because it's obvious. He realizes, like, I've been screwed here. There's nothing here. It's at that point that they fire Starkiller Base. As well as, like, the laser itself, they are pouring the Force, both sides of the Force, into it. And through their combined power, Plagueis is destroyed. The question then becomes, what happens next? Both Anakin and Luke have essentially expended all of their power. Luke is on the brink of death. So is Anakin. And in a show of, say, contrition, say, hope, Finn and Rey both sacrifice their life to save Luke and Anakin. This having happened now, Anakin goes back to Coruscant. Essentially, they've come to an agreement that you need balance. You need the dark, you need the light. You can't have one without the other. When you do, chaos ensues. So Anakin is going to go. He's going to become the new Emperor. He's going to rule as a dark side user, but with a foot in the light at the same time. And essentially, they're going to be checks and balances for each other. Luke with the light, Anakin with the dark. even though you have now an emperor that is more accepting of the light side. There's no longer the animosity between the two. They both accepted that one needs the other. So what's left of the Republic are going to go their way. What's left of the Empire, the First Order, are going to go their way. It's going to be a two galaxy empire, or a 2-state galaxy. I don't know, but yeah, and that is where the movie ends. So that is my theory for the Star Wars sequels. I've said before, this is just my theory. You know, when it comes to Star Wars, people have a lot of thoughts, all different types of thoughts. You know, some people have very set ways in how it goes. Some people think it should go a completely different way. This is just how I think it should go. You'll notice from my telling of this tale, it's definitely a much more dark side heavy story. I'll just say, I've always wanted a story from the Empire's point of view. I've always wanted to see, because let's be 100% honest, the Empire was like a tyranny, but it worked. It lasted for decades. And yeah, I want to see that story. The dark side is fascinating, to say the least. So yeah, that is my my theory on what the Star Wars sequels should be. Feel free to leave down the comments what you think. You agree, disagree, but it's all good. Just, keep it civil. We don't want no craziness when it comes to this. We all know Star Wars fans can be a bit much at times, myself included, but is what it is. Yeah, so there you go. This has been a good one. It's quite a long video, damn. I have no clue what I'm going to do next for my theory video, but I have a few ideas. I was thinking maybe Candyman. That could be interesting, but we'll see. So yeah, that's it for me. See you next time.